Hi, everybody. I'm here a little bit early because I want to try something. Um, I'm going to be switching cameras, and the camera I've been using to take care of my garden was my second phone, and it is not working this week. I hope it's just Mercury retrograde, but I don't know. So I have a second way to do a camera, and I'm going to try it right now, see if it will let me do it and not throw the show off. Yay! We can see the board. Okay, then that works. That was my what I had to figure out this morning. It's been a rough morning. Um, okay. And also if you want to have questions, I already have uh 9 questions and a comment that I'm going to show. So if you want to get a question in, you need to get it in early. I've already highlighted one that was done properly in caps and all that good stuff. Okay. Um, One thing I don't know why I thought of this, but when I was a little kid, I used to spend Saturdays at the YMCA in my hometown, and they had like a exercise part, and we had things we did for swimming and all this stuff. I was a competitive swimmer as a kid, and so we the Y was the best place to do water sports. And they also had like a reading room and a room with a piano where everybody played the Heart and Soul, that song they play. And but it was just a place to hang out. It was safe. It was on for Saturday afternoons, and you got Saturdays, and you got to realize in Illinois, a lot of the year Saturday's way too cold to go out. So it was fun. And one of the things, I was in the reading room once, and I read a story, and I never forgot it. I was about 10, 10 or 11 years old, and it was a story about a little boy who was 10, and he was digging around in this desk, and he found a ball of string, a red ball of string. And so he did a little tug on it. And all of a sudden, he wasn't a 10-year-old boy anymore. He was a teenager. And he looked at it and he thought, oh my God, what's going on here? So he did another teeny little pull on it, and he was graduating from college. He had all the information he needed. He had absolutely no memory, no time. Time had moved that quickly for him. And so he put it back in, he put it back, hid it somewhere in his life and tried to forget about it, but he never could. He always tempted to pull on the string again. So he pulled on the string, and he was all of a sudden he was married. He had little kids. They were made, the house was very noisy, full of children and all that stuff. And so he was, they did much better description than I'm doing. But anyway, finally, he hit a very frustrating point in his 30s, between 30 and 40, when he's going into middle age. And he pulled quite a long line of the string out. The last thing he remembered before he pulled that string was the kids were running around the house. They were teenagers, pre-teenagers, making a lot of noise. His life was very frustrated. He felt very trapped by some things. Of course, he hadn't lived much of his life, to think about it. And he pulled the string again, and all of a sudden he was in his house, and it was very quiet. And he had the memory of the fact that his wife had died, and he was in the house alone, and it was so silent. All the things that had made him feel frustrated and angry when he was younger were now silent. And he was sitting there, and he looked at the string, and he threw it in the back of the drawer and said, I'm never pulling that string again. And right after he said that, he heard the front door open and a child walk in and say, oh, hi, Grandpa, and da 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 da. And that's how the story ended, that he had hidden the string of life away. And I always remembered that story about how, yeah, things may be frustrating and you're like, oh, I want to get to the next thing. But there's times in your life where just go through the things that are going on around you and enjoy them in that now, in that moment. And sometimes when I read people, I realize they're saying, what's going to happen in 6 months? What's going to happen in a year? And I'm like, I always start my readings with, where are you right now? Or what's going on around you for the next 3 months? And I was thinking about that whole pulling the red cord. And actually, that's a thing uh, I found out in a Chinese fairy tale that there is a string that connects all of your life together, and it's a red ball of string. Um, and I immediately went back to that story and said, "Oh, that's where they got that from." But one of the things I want to warn people, since we're doing past lives today, by the way, Kelly will not be here. She had an allergy attack and got very little sleep last night. So I said, "Why don't you take the day off?" I mean, really. So, um, what I'm going to say to you is I had a lot of questions and I'll talk about them. There's some where people want me to answer things about past lives that really takes a longer past life reading than I can do here. Mine are quick and dirty on the Oracle Garden past life and with the cards and stuff. Uh, when I do real past life readings, which you can get through my website right now, and everything on my website is 10% off till the 31st of May because I'm that was my gift to the world for me making it another year. Um, so I guess my warning to you was I got a lot of things about what do I need to know about this past life? Well, you know about it. It's buried in your conscious self, in your kind of super conscious self. And um, my biggest fear about doing past lives when I first learned how to do them was that people would use them as an excuse. Oh, well, it's been like that in that past life, and I'm going to choose to make it that way in this past life. I want anyone who gets a past life reading or thinking about doing past life work to remember that, yes, it helped you form the map for your life this time and what you need to overcome or what you can include. One of the best past life readings I ever did, I did it for this woman, and she had been so successful in the life before this one that she just came back to teach everybody else how to be that successful because she just did it so well. So, their past lives are not always what we didn't do right. A lot of times they're what we did do right and what we learned and could move forward with. So that's kind of my little thing to start. And let me go down and looking at the chat and see. I see lots of familiar faces. Got your question, Nivra. And let's see. Okay, it's found a. Okay, I'm going to highlight these and the ones I catch now. Because, like I said, I already have 10. Yeah, I know. You put it on the community page. I've already got yours set up, Nivra, to read. And there's several different ways to read on past lives. Okay, look at that one. I'm going to stop right now on highlighting them so I can get to the ones that I've got. And I've got them over in, oh, I don't want to do that. So with banners. And this was the first comment I'm going to show, and it relates to this. That was the picture that I put in. It's like sometimes you end up between a rock and a hard place, but you can still do something beautiful. I think that's totally true about past lives, and I did not know until Jan Wag said that that's a Johnny Jump Up flower. I didn't know that's what it was. I used to read at a used clothing store, recycling shop, and they had booths full of all kinds of funky Texarkana and weird things. And it's called Dolly Python's in Dallas. It's on Haskell. And in the spring, she was in a building. It was in an old Piggly Wiggly. This building had been built in 1910, and the sidewalk was right up to the building. And those little flowers used to show up in the spring. And I always thought that was so cute that no matter how kind of ugly that sidewalk on the side of that building was, they could find a way to make it beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to switch us to the other camera. Yay! Okay, it did it now. This is her question. Shay Zamos said, how can I remember my past lives? What joys and sorrows have I carried? What talents did I have? Thank you. Well, I'm going to read one past life, but if you really want to learn how to use your past lives, you can, before you go to sleep at night, ask your consciousness, the different levels of your consciousness, to come together and give you ideas. And you'll probably dream about it or have an image or wake up in the morning knowing you know something. So that's always kind of fun. Now, for those who haven't seen the garden before, that's petrified wood. And that's amber, which is petrified and preserved resin, but it still feels like resin, and you can actually burn. If you put a flame on that, it will burn. You'll smell the pine smell that's in it. Those are the ancestor stones, and that's what you look at that you're learning from before, from the past life that's coming in. This is a quartz, and it's for clarity, and this is citrine, and it is to remind you what you have come to value in this life. So that's how those stones work out. And this was not designed by me. This was designed by Alma. And I'll put in the notes where you can find it. But we're going to look at your past life. And the first thing we're going to go, okay, was Shay's, I hope I'm saying your name right. Was she male or female? Oh, you're clearly female because it went way up over the female mark. How does this life fit into her life now? What is she learning? Okay, you're learning how to come to terms with your soul family. So we're going to roll the stones in and see where they lay on here. And then I'll probably pull a couple cards to see if I can see something more clearly. Oops, you did the wrong thing. I didn't toss you, just fell out. Okay. You actually felt in the same stuff. Clouding, receding. Younger in this life. You chose I hope I don't know if you're female, I don't know what you are, but you said you chose to deal more with the feminine energy in this life. And that life gave you a lot of clarity about it. In this life, you're heavily tied. This is the petrified wood, and it clearly ties to this life, and soul family was right in here. And that means that you are heavily involved with your soul family now. So I think when you come in with a lot of soul family members, that means old stuff for both of you to be working out. Your amber is another soul factor, and it's that you carried forward in your life plan. And you may be trying to break away from being with your soul family as much. You may have wanted to come in and be more independent. And you had the citrine, which is citrine brings good luck. And you're here to release this. So what I would say, what talents did you have? I think you were pretty successful. I think this time you've been so good that you don't need this same group to pal around with anymore, soul wise. And you're probably finding a lot of new friends and people that way. I'm going to do yes, no, to see if I'm close to what you're doing here. This is yes. It's yes, because when I swing this way, it's yes. This way is no. So what you've done, you probably felt very familiar with a lot of your family that you came in with. And in this life, you kind of, I really get the feeling you've enjoyed them more than you have in past lives. You're receding away from needing to be with them anymore. You're probably in your next incarnations are going to be more independent. And that's kind of joys and sorrows. The joy and sorrow you've carried is the joy of knowing certain things about these people, but also when you've disappointed them or they've disappointed you, you've had problems with that in your life. So let's see, who's the next question? Okay. Why do you think you need to heal anything, Tammy Jackson? Why can't you just accept your past needing to heal? Let's see. Does Tammy, I'm sorry, Tammy. Does Tammy have something she really needs to heal? Well, you're better than I am about this, Tammy, because it says yes, you do. Let's see if we can roll some things in here and see what emerges for you. Oh. You need to come to terms with your own power. You've got the petrified wood there, and you need to embrace the things happening in this life. You've learned a lot in this life by being female. The ultimate clarification of your life is going to come when you're a little bit older in this life. And this is the same way as it was for Shays. It's a very important life for you to start to roll up your understanding of your soul family and how to heal spiritually. Let's see if I can pull any cards out and see who you were in a past life or some element of the past life that affected you. These are past life oracle cards. I think they've put them back out in print again because Kelly managed to find some. Oh. Okay. And I'm going to move this one up, but you came from an Asian background, which means there's a whole lot of traditions tied around you, and you need to not be so tied to traditions. You know, the girls did this, the boys did that. They had very rigid social structures. You've been both male and female, and that's kind of how males and females get along. It's always part of your argument because you'll see males doing things you want to do, and you'll go, why can't I do that? And then on the other side, there are males who say, why can't I take more of a, like, cook and do things without catching derision? A lot of that's going away in our generation. That's part of the healing and the ascension we're going through, but you carry in some wounds from that. But you've always had angels around you that have helped you get through. So ask your angels to clarify for you where you stand in this. I don't know. I think in this life, you're coming to terms with this gender role thing. And part of the reason you hung on to it so closely was because of your attachment to your Asian background, more traditional background. And this is Irene says, who was I in my past life? Am I on the right path for correcting it in this lifetime? You guys always think you have to correct things. Maybe you brought in good stuff. I'm actually going to do this with cards because I want to show you that can happen. It also can not be right, but okay. I'm usually better set up to just flip from one thing to the other. But like I said, today I had a slight camera problem, which I solved. I'm very proud of myself. I didn't even get tech support to come help me because tech support's upstairs saving the data for the rest of the world. Okay. You've never seen this reading. This is the one I do when I'm at table, and it's the one that I start with. When I do past life readings, I do this to get the base reading. It's called a Spirit 7. I'm going to move it up so that you can see all the cards. Ooh, okay. Now, Irene, these 3 cards represent your life in this life, and these 3 cards are the cards from your past life. And let's see if we can get them up here because you got the King of Wands down here. So what I see in your past life was there was someone loved you very, very dearly, but because you came from a family of means and you had a father who didn't like that person, you were not allowed to have that romance. It was just stopped. And I'm really feeling medieval Renaissance period in Italy. And you came in this life and you said, this is bullshit. I'm going to pick my own way, even if it costs me at times. And because of that, you've built a happier family for yourself. You've been a place where you've made the correction. You've built a family. There's like all families, it's got its problem things in it, but you built it yourself and you didn't do it for money or anything else. You did it and you had to adjust your values some to make it in the world you've made it in. But it's better than being in a house that had all the money in the world, but a mean person in charge of it. I think you've rectified that situation in this life. You were a woman. He was not a bad guy, but your dad was a little right in that he was a bit of a romancer and kind of was impressed with you, the house you lived in and the lifestyle you had. But I think you two could have made a go of it in that life. And I think you lived with all the regrets. So you came in this lifetime and said, nobody's telling me how to do this. So I don't know if that touches a chord for you, but I think it's pretty valid. And have you ever really wanted to go to Italy, Vera? Because what I'm feeling is it's like northern Italy up in near Florence, that area. Next question. Michaela Butler. I hope I'm saying that right. There may be an Ia in there or something that I'm not doing right. But anyway, is there anything I need to know about my past life? Okay, we're going to start with the pendulum. Is there anything she needs to know about the past life? Yes, very definitely yes. Okay. Who was she in a past life? Male or female? Oh, you were male. Okay.
Someone's at the front door doorbell.
Oh, damn. My children work from home, and I don't always know when people are going to ring the doorbell, but it's not my job to answer it. It's theirs. Okay, we're going into what was the main overwhelming urge that came from that life? Power. And have you been able to resolve that in this life? Kind of. You see, it's not directly north and south. It's off, so it's heading towards no. So you're not finished changing the things you need to change. And I'm going to throw some stones and see. What does she need to know from the past life that's working in this life? And the amber stuff. Oh, okay. This life, you're leading out a lot of your destiny. And I think you've had problems with power. I think that the man you were in that past life misused power. So, and I think he may have been part of the church or part of a belief system that limited you. And I'm really feeling like Puritan times. And so what you're really coming into your own strides now that you've gotten older. You carried the best part of what that person did, and you're clarifying it because your destiny is to have power and use it well, not have power the way you used it in that past life. I really see you, really honest to God, tall, skinny, Puritan guy with one of those funky black hats on, throwing his weight around on the population. I think you've been very careful to not do that to people, but you've learned how to find your own power and you're beginning to fulfill your destiny. So let's see if we can get something The past lives about your destiny. Let's see, what was your destiny? Oh, to be fair to your spouse. Oh, he was probably not good about that. And to not prey on people's fears, and to accept and deal with the things you vowed. So part of the lesson from that guy was he structurally seemed to carry out the path he was supposed to, but he really didn't. I don't think he was very nice to his spouse. So I think your lessons for this life was to come in and be good with your spouse, to let go of your fears, and to not try to not to become so codependent as a way to avoid your own fears. And when you say you're going to do something, you do it, but you don't do it out of fanaticism. You do it out of a real desire to do the right thing. I think you're having a pretty good life. Let's see what's this question. Okay, how did my past life end? Does it affect this life? Well, okay, I'm going to see if it's going to let me go to the end of your life. I don't know if you've ever had a past life regression where they really take you in a great deal of depth into a past life. But one of the things they tell you when you've been put into a trance or been hypnotized to be able to go into that part of your life, the first thing they always tell you to do is look at your shoes. Because if you think about it, what's on your feet is going to tell you so much about who you are. Different periods, different times, different dates. And then it tells you sort of your status. Did you even have shoes? I had a friend who, when she was regressed, the first thing she looked down and she said, I have the feet of a 6-year-old boy. And that's exactly what she had. She was a 6-year-old boy. So, and he didn't have any shoes on. He lived in a warm climate, so it wasn't mean, but he just didn't have any shoes on. And so a lot of times too, the other thing that they'll do is at the end of your life, they'll talk to you about your circumstances and what's going on around you. And then while you're hypnotized, they will tell you to go to the last day, to go to the end and to see what's there. But by that time, you've created a whole train of thought for the therapist to help you see and for people to see. I've only seen it a couple times when I was doing card readings when people died, and it's never fun. Well, the ones I had weren't a lot of fun. I had a woman who was standing, she was in Spain in the time of Isabella, the Queen Isabella and her husband. And there was a lot of what she was a psychic, and she had used her power to help them gain their thrones. And then people in the church were pissed about it, so they badmouthed her. And so she was standing in the window of the home she lived on at the top of the hill, watching them come, the soldiers come, and she knew they were coming to kill her. So, stuff like that. Okay, so should we look at Roni Wise death? No, I don't think so. I think it's kind of violent and gory, and I think you're better to go for doing what I said at night before you go to sleep. Ask to see what that life was about, and then see what you need to learn from it. If it's how you died, then it'll show up. But I just had a funny feeling, Roni. You did that. When I read your question, I went, I don't think I'm going there. Anyway, this is Nivros. What karmic patterns from? Okay. Let's see. From past lives. When you say past lives, I can't really do male or female because unless we're focusing on a life, because you've been both, and you've been all the other shades in between if you've been through here a bunch of times. So we're just gonna try to roll in these stones and see what areas you're working with in this lifetime. And they can be positive areas too, guys. So don't get all hepped up about that. Oh, okay. What's your problems with Sagittarius? I'm going to pull that back into Destiny. This life, you've always felt like you were below other people. You put other people before you. That's probably a pattern you're really working on breaking, Nivra. You've been female more than you've been male, and you're actually, your vibrations and your energy carries through better as a female. But you are in this lifetime to prove a destiny. So I'm going to try and figure out your Sagittarius thing. Don't move this rock, move it anywhere, release it, let it go, recede from it, do whatever you can do, because you don't want to have to feel like everybody else needs to be ahead of you. And that could be what you need to you're fixing from a past life, and you may be well on your way to healing that. I don't know. The only problem with reading questions people post to you, or even reading questions in the chat, because of how I learned to read, I always read with the person. And so I could get more information. We could get much deeper into what's going on. But anyway, guys. Okay. Let's see what I can see in this past life. Health. Communal living. Oh, and your spirituality and religion was cut off in that life. What you're learning how to do is you can do things that promote your own health, that you don't just about die trying to take care of everybody else. You can do more communal living. You need a community of people around you to support you. And in that life, spirituality and religion were reversed. And I think in this life, you need to let the light in. And that will get you out of that position I saw here, where you put yourself below other people. If you let light in, when you open up your heart, I do a meditation that you open up your heart and the light flows out, but you have to remember to bring the light, some of the light back in for you. You just can't be a font. You can't be a lantern for everybody else. And I think you're learning that in this lifetime. And that looks really good. Let me see if the pendulum thinks I'm close. Yep. It says you're healing those. Those are the things you needed to work on, and that's what you're healing. So good for you, girl. But I don't know if you're a Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are very open and funny and intellectually they're very, very smart. But they can kind of get lost in their own head. But my second husband was a Sag, and he was a physicist, and he was fascinated with what I could do. And people used to joke with him, his science friends, say, "What are you hanging around with a person who does that for?" And he always said, "Someday we'll find out how she does it, and we'll be glad we know." And he kept saying, "I wish I knew how you do it." I did it. When he was retired, he read all kinds of books on it. And he's the first person who ever lectured me about quantum physics, which, if you follow on the YouTubes, is all over it. That's how the universe really works. Susan, the doorbell rang.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'll look at it.
Okay. I don't know if it's for you. Okay.
Is your show still going?
Uh-huh. Susan just says hi to everybody. What past life residual effect can be used to improve this life? Okay. Okay. Roll some stones in there. Oh, you got good. Resolved. You've resolved a pattern with your ancestors, because you've got the prize for this life is resolving it, and the clarity is coming from the ancestors. And you had a lot of your petrified wood energy, your sort of locked in key energy, came from unresolved things. So you've got resolved on this side, and unresolved you came in with, and it has to do with ancestral things. So you can handle that. And your amber was on female, and I think it's from dealing more from your feminine side. Maybe this this life, what I'm going to say, and I'll do a yes, no on it. Maybe your life, this life, you came in and resolved to not resent being a female. Is that true? Yep. The past life, you were a female and you were repressed, and this time you've come in and told the ancestors to stuff it. You've resolved that kind of grief, and you've learned to be female and to have not just female, but the feminine energy, the things of the divine feminine that help all of us. I mean, we need both. Okay, that's Cynthia. Okay. Wondering about past life dream. For years, I've heard blood curdling scream in my ear, woke me up out of a sound sleep, not birds or in my home. And I asked, what is this all about? Okay, I'm going to do the Spirit 7 to look at what you're seeing in. Okay. You were falsely imprisoned somewhere. This is a past life. You were falsely imprisoned somewhere. You were treated very cruelly. It was extremely unjust. And you're hearing the screams of other people that were around you. And I'm really seeing like Inquisition time. So in this life, you came in to build a good group of people, to defend yourself, to always get in the boat with the right people. And this is that in this life, you've met all the right people. So that card reversed, that's a 5 of coins. That's the one people normally are trudging through the snow. But the way I read this card in this deck, when it's reversed, you found the people you couldn't see. What you couldn't see before, you can now see. So I think that screaming was memories of the screams and the wails that you were surrounded by at the end of your days in that life. And if you have guides or angels that you rely on, you can ask them to help put that to sleep. Maybe now that you know where it came from, now that you've been reminded in this life, you had it really hard and you were falsely imprisoned. In the life you're in now, you're making all the right choices. You're doing the right things. Your energy's moving the right way. So let's go see. Oh, I've got tons and tons of comments. So let me see how many of them. Okay. Okay, we're going to go. This was the very first one got posted in the chat. Patricia Franzino. Okay, let's see. I can ask that as just a yes no question, but we can look at a past life if we get a yes. Okay. Is there any past life interfering with me, completing my soul growth in the current life? There is one. So we're going to look at it and see. Is there any past life with your soul's growth? Well, okay. It's kind of interesting. Everybody always freaks out when they see the tower in the middle. That's just things being torn down that need to. But it's right next to the sun, so that's really interesting. Um, this is the life you lived, and you got yourself out of you were imprisoned or stopped from going where you wanted to go. You were Irish and you came to America and you found a good life here and you found the sunlight. This time in this life, because you did such a radical change, I don't know, people got on those boats. I don't know if you've ever seen some of the boats people came across the Atlantic in. It's absolutely scary. I actually walked on it's to scale. One of the boats Columbus came over here in. I wouldn't go across White Rock Lake in that. I mean, they're teeny tiny. So, you know how to take risks. And that's what you brought into this life. And sometimes you've taken risks because it always worked out for you before. And you've had some sort of what you thought were disastrous results. But often those disastrous results means you're just a better risk taker than most people. And you've got both in that life. You had the sun shining you everywhere you need to go. This time you need to deal with your mind and your emotions to go where you need to go. Right now you're planting a crop and you're just not sure what's going to happen with it, but it's going to turn out actually better than you think. This just means that things that have gotten locked into one place are going to break loose and free up. So I think it looks good, but you came in, and unlike a lot of people who feel like their souls were being held back, you came in with an overabundance of optimism. So I don't know what to tell you to do with that. I tend to be the sort of Irish that says, oh, it's a beautiful day. And then the back of my mind it goes, but I'm sure it's going to rain tomorrow. So I can't tell you what to do with that. Okay, let's go. Okay, we'll just do this as a yes, no. Is this fall the right time to go to school? Hello, world. This is a straight reading. This has nothing to do with past lives. And also, to go over and hit the like button for me. That helps enormously. YouTube's getting so funky and they're really pushing those people talking to you for 60 seconds. I have a hard time saying hello in 60 seconds. So they're really, really pushing people. And if you do those, then they feature your work more. I'm like, fine. But if you go over and like, if you're not a subscriber on my channel, please go over and subscribe. And I'll go through what's going on my website right now. And this is Hello World. Yeah. And I'll tell you how this one reads if you don't. This is my yes, no 5 card. That's a yes. That's a no because it's upside down. That's a yes, that's a no, and that's a yes. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and 2 nos. And part of it is that you're undecided about what you want to really study. And you have some male around you who wants to take more of your time, or a person around you that you care about, and they seem to want to take more of your time. And so you're thinking maybe this fall isn't the best time. But it says, yes, it's great because you got the money. It's going to be there. Once you get into school, you'll solve this problem. Once you get there, you'll start taking coursework and you go, oh, no, I belong over here. I don't belong over there. And you're going to get your heart's desire to, in what you study. That's always fun. Okay. What happens, in case you think that this woman really sat there and typed hand pink waving. She didn't. That's what it does to those emojis sometimes. I would love a past life reading about money and my feelings about money if I could. Thanks and blessings. Okay. We're going to see first. Is Miriam right in understanding there's a past life vibration directing her about money? Yes. Okay. What we're going to do. Was Miriam a male or a female in that life? It's both. They're both going exactly the same point. So it's been several of them. Okay, let's see if we can see if I roll this right. What are the areas that are on this board or that you can open my eyes to where we can help Miriam with her understanding of money? Ah. Well, you've suffered a great deal of loss of money. And this one almost slid off the board, but this is what it's directly in line with. So you've got loss, harmony, free will, and embrace. Okay. This morning I was listening to a book that Louise Hay was sent to Louise Hay. If you don't know who she was, she set up Hay House, which has a lot of if you use Radley Valentine's decks or the lady who does moon decks, those people are all part of Hay House. And Von Prague's part of Hay House. And she set this up. She came into doing mystical things in the early 70s. Louise did, and she's dead now because she was older then. And she fell in love with this woman whose name I'm not remembering. But apparently she was the original person in the early 1900s that wrote about manifestation and how to work with manifestation. And she wrote another book. She wrote it and it was never published. And if I can find it in my thing. Anyway, it's a YouTube video. So library, history. Okay, the magic path of intuition, and the woman's name was Florence Scovel Sheen, and they read it. It's a really the guy who reads it has a pretty good reading voice, and she was talking about, and she was the original person that her original book was. I gotta turn the audio off.
Welcome everyone.
Stop that. She wrote a book called something about the path of how to win at life, or the messages to win at life. And one of the things she talked a lot about was material abundance and how we block it, how once we get afraid. I think in this life, you've had loss, you've had harmony with money, you've had free will with money, and now you want to embrace getting clarity of how to deal with money. And this woman talked a lot about that, how when we get like, oh my God, I only have $10 left in my bank account, we freak. That's a way that we block ourselves from our prosperity. You may as well put a big neon sign over the top of my head, no abundance here. And you've been through all of it. You've done all of it, Miriam, and that's why you're so aware about your feelings about money. And what your feelings about money ought to be every day. One of the things this woman talks about is waking up every day and saying, the universe provides for me so wonderfully. And if you listen to the book, that when they read it, they talk about how there are going to be times when it is going to get tight, but that just makes you understand the times of abundance. So I'd say you have carried in some lessons, but boy, you've carried in some powerful ones. You've gone through a lot of loss of money. You also, your good luck is when you're in harmony with your money. It's all free will from your ancestors. You're not tied to your soul family anymore more about having to deal with this. And you just need to embrace that the money's going to be there. So that's what I saw. Okay, we're going to do the Spirit 7 spread. And don't go looking for the Spirit 7 spread anywhere, guys. I was just playing with the cards one day and I realized they work this way, but I didn't find it in a book. It's actually supposed to tell you who someone is, and I realized it's not just who they are, but it's who they were. Oh, where's my phone? Binging and banging. Okay, here we go. Candy Mullen. Okay. Current life, past life. In your past life, one of the things you carry is a memory of a very strong relationship. It was a little intemperate. It was a little out of balance at times, but, and it didn't create a great foundation for you to live on, but you really, really enjoyed it. It really, really created a happy space for you to be in. In this life, you came in carrying a grudge. I'm going to have to throw some cards on that Three of Swords. You came in either not well or people around you weren't well when you were little, and yet you managed to sort of optimistically make it through that. But there's still right now something's happened around you that you're feeling a little insecure, and you feel like, and actually this is not just you. There's someone who's sort of lying to you that's near you, and that's very upsetting for you. So you're not sure what your choices are. These two cards are almost the opposite of each other. This is the tree of illusion and delusion. You think you have a lot of choices out there. You really don't. You need to come back to this Nine of Cups, which you carried in with you, and you need to work on how you can make your wishes relevant to your life now. You need to fill up each one of these cups with where you want things to go. I think right now you're feeling a little bit like you're being lied to by this person, and I'm going to pull out the Three of Swords and see what was that when you were young. I don't know if a parent left or they got very insecure about things, but everything was start and stop. There was constantly a money struggle, and someone kind of left and made you feel kind of abandoned. And you'd come in from such a life where things were not completely balanced, but they were more secure. You had that intemperance card, but otherwise those cards were pretty good in your past life. So you came in, I think you thought, oh, I've already been there, done that. And apparently this life, the imbalance came back. So what's really important for you to work for in a past life is balance. And I'm going to use these cards too. Asian, unrequited love. And I think whatever the problem was may have been with your father in both these lives. So you were madly in love with someone and you really thought you built a bond. Something happened to it. So you came into this life a little brokenhearted and you can't quite figure out what happened. It's sort of, and whatever your relationship's been with your father. So I would say Candy, I think you're making a good go of it, but it was not as easy as you would have thought. And I don't think you tell people often enough or talk to someone. You may need to talk to someone. Okay, where were we? Okay. So I don't need to read this for you. White Dragon says he knows his past life. He suffered through extreme arthritis, which back in the old days, if you got arthritis, you were doomed. I also created many paintings that are in museums and private collections. Well, that's kind of fun. I don't know if you did that through regression or through some other method, but we're just skimming the surface today. And okay, Gino, what past life is assisting in my spiritual development in this one? Okay. Oh, the Middle Ages. What fun. I think you were in the Middle Ages. I think you were artistic and you learned to communicate with people, not like most people did, but through your music. And actually, what I hear is women used to write music for the royal courts and they were prized for it. And it was kind of a way they could make money. I used to have, when I still had my CD collection, I had a whole CD of this. The music was very interesting. It was very haunting. I think I may have been there with Eugene because I really related to that music. But, and you actually started doing, because, there's lots of times in the Middle Ages when there were famines and things, and you came from a very poor background and managed to make it up in the world. And that's helping your spiritual development now. You try to do the finer and the gentler things to help people see where they're going. And let's see. I'm going to throw stones in for her because it kind of intrigues me. It was in France, but it was when France was still sort of divided into pieces, but it was like more towards Burgundy, that area of France. Front. Yeah, you're both that past life ties into both of your ancestor stones. And you need to embrace the light in this life that's coming from it. And you've got a tiny bit of your citrine, which is your good luck stone, in enlightening. So whenever you feel you can enlighten and help people move towards that light, that's what this past life gave you, because there was so much satisfaction in a time of great need and a lot of distress and competition. This was a way to improve people's lives. But you were not in a monastery, you weren't in an abbey, or you weren't in a nunnery. You were out in the world. You were dressed pretty and dancing fine. So okay, let's see. Got one more. Oh, okay. I'm getting some comments from the people I read saying that was right. Yeah, Tammy says she's had to let several people go because they don't vibe with her anymore. And a lot of that going on, especially right now. Let's see. I think I'm about a minute away from this, so I'm going to switch the camera. Okay. I'm going to cut it off because none of the questions are like short and sweet. So we're going to go back to me seeing you. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry Kelly couldn't be here. It always helps when she pulls her cards on what's going on around us. On my website, I'm having a sale to the end of the month. It's my birthday month, so I can have a sale if I want to. And also, all the things in there are marked at 10% off. That includes the readings. So, past life readings are there. I didn't realize it, but when they set my past life readings up, I'd sold so many that it didn't think I had any more in inventory. Well, as long as I'm sitting upright, have a deck of cards and some stones, we can do a past life reading. And for people who are part of my gardening class, we won't have it this Saturday. We will have it the next Saturday. And that's kind of all I can think of to say to everybody today. And below it tells how if you really, 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 really want to help me, I have Venmo, I have PayPal, and I'll be doing some more past lives because people wrote me that they really kind of missed seeing them so much. I may go into more of a lecture on how to work with your past lives. And, remember what we're going through right now, the really good days when a lot of stuff happens, you think that's fascinating, and the days that go more slowly. We are at a time when we're separating from things. So you're going to be called upon to let things go. And now's a great time to do it. I'm hoping to have Dorothy Morgan on next week. We were supposed to get together this week, and then she and I made that appointment when I was still not feeling terribly well, and I forgot to write it down. So it got canceled, but that was okay because she had someone to show up she needed to do a class with. Other than that, just go ahead and have a good time. Like I said, Jupiter goes into Taurus. Mercury is almost finished with its retrograde. Thank God. And I will be seeing you in a show sometime soon. I'll be on Scott's Sunday morning, Spiritual Essence. And then on Monday morning, I should have a video go up with Kelly about reading in the garden and looking at the vibrations for the week. So that's kind of it, kids. You have a good day. Bye-bye.